Hi, everyone. My name is George. Thanks for the intro, Yanis. Today, I'm going to try and give you some insights on some of the challenges and some of the ways that we have identified and used in Orfium to deliver value through AI systems in production and gain adoption throughout the company. Before I start, let me just give you some hints about my background. I started working on data science back in 2016. Before that, I did my bachelor's in electrical engineering and computer science at the Technical University of Athens, followed by some research work, and then a master's in data science in London. So let's start with some of the challenges. This is in no case complete, just a few things to highlight, which I believe are the easiest to fix. So AI specialists and AI engineers tend to be curious. They enjoy spending time doing research, experimentation, and catching up with the state of the art. So it's quite important to keep that in or within certain limits, because if it goes above a certain threshold, then you may end up getting misaligned with the business and the initial requirements and limitations. So heavy focus on research, even though it's a great trait to have in your company and in your team, it can also pose some challenges and issues when trying to work towards a production-level system. In a similar sense, ignoring costs and scaling difficulties, that can keep your AI system on the shelf, so you always need to be aware of the limitations you have on these areas. Overcomplicated approaches. This goes hand in hand usually with the state-of-the-art. A lot of the state-of-the-art approaches tend to be more complex than the ones used and that are more mature. Again, it's similar to the first point. There might be easier solutions, less complex solutions that are going to deliver the same or even better results to the end user and your stakeholders. Black boxes. They tend to create mistrust and are harder to explain and keep track of why certain behaviors happen and why certain issues occur, either because of the data or some business logic that has been embedded in the system. So again, a black box might prove to create more issues and challenges when you try to gain adoption and trust across the company. Finally, AI is fairly complex. There is a lot of terminology that is very specific to data scientists and AI specialists. So creating some common terminology and some common vocabulary across teams and outside the AI team is really crucial. And if you don't do that, you may end up, again, losing trust or losing interest from your stakeholders. Now moving to some of the ways that we have identified. Some of them are quite obvious, but it's worth mentioning. AI usually is being developed by one team, but a lot of different teams give input and have stakes on the project. So it's very, very crucial to have alignment throughout the life cycle of any AI project. This goes, again, closely with a collaboration that needs to happen across those teams. People from different levels and different teams need to be involved and work closely with one another to gain trust, understanding of the solution and the approach, validate the assumptions, and make sure that delivery is going to be successful. Since you may work with different teams, it's also useful to work on the same development cycle and have the same cadence. So sharing the same development cycle and the same cadence can also lead to a better delivery and a better adoption of your product. There needs to be a focus on the outcomes. So a solution and the approach per se might be interesting for us as data scientists and AI specialists, but the end user and the stakeholder will only or mostly focus on the outcomes and what you deliver to them and how easily they can use and trust that. The distribution of ownership. AI, for some people, is something very vague, and some people mix AI and confuse it with magic. So we need to be very specific on exactly what AI is doing, what the ownership of the team of AI is about, and make sure that everyone is aligned on that as well. Cross-functional teams, having cross-functional teams with different backgrounds, so involving business, human experts when possible, product, other engineering people can also enhance in the end delivery and how successful the whole AI system is. Educating people across crafts. So we as an AI team, we have tried through workshops and presentations and just open discussions to educate people on what AI is and what the specific solutions we're working on are about and how they work and how dependable they are on the data we provide them. So it's a really good practice to try and educate people across different crafts. That's good for the company, it grows the company, it also grows the individuals, and it helps with the successful deliveries of such projects. Mentioned that as a challenge before, AI specialists are quite curious and tend to enjoy spending time doing research, so it's a good practice to give them time to do that without distractions, and time that's going to be completely separate to the development cycle and the deployment cycle. So this is going to give you and your team a better placement when you actually go after developing and deploying a solution, because if you have a good understanding of knowledge of the state of the art and what is available out there, you're not going to waste time trying things that you shouldn't. Human in the loop, this is very important for us at Orfium. We have a lot of human experts at copyrights, legal things, so it's quite useful to think of them as people that you're going to work with when developing the tool, and also people that you're going to try and enhance with your tool, rather than replace them. So human in the loop for us is a very good idea, and we use it. And now I'm going to try to show you how we face those challenges and use some of those solutions in a real-life example. So Orfium is a copyright management company. So we have clients that have copyrights of musical assets. So whenever a musical asset is being used, so a song is being played, either on a platform online, either on a bar, on a TV channel, on a commercial, wherever, usually some money needs to be distributed. And this money needs to be distributed to the rightful copyright owners. So that's the very, very simplified view of how the music industry works in terms of money distribution. The main challenge here is that a musical asset has a recording and it has a composition. And then under a composition and under a recording, you have a different set of copyrights and also a different set of copyright owners. All of that information is discarded across the industry. There is no single source of truth, so someone needs to go in and say that for this specific musical asset, I know that this is the relevant recording, this is the relevant composition, and then these are all the relevant copyrights. So someone could say that, okay, we can go and create those links manually. We have a lot of people. There are, I don't know, specialists that can actually go and do that. But this is realistically not feasible because of the vast number of assets, copyrights, copyright owners, and how often these things change. So we have tried to apply, well, we have successfully applied AI on that problem by delivering a system called metadata linking service. So what we're doing is using all of the relevant and available metadata to create those links, and with those links to distribute money to the rightful owners. Okay, so some of the specific challenges that we faced with deploying the metadata linking service. Metadata linking service needed to be applied as part of a bigger flow and a very complex flow. On that flow, there is a lot of business logic. There are legal terms and issues to address. There are different teams like business, operations, and copyright specialists. There are other engineering teams. There is product. So we need to be aligned with all of them on the specific limitations, the goals, and how we integrate and be part of this bigger flow. Another big issue is that quite often the data is incomplete and also quite often of poor quality. So we need to address that by finding ways to either improve the quality or get more complete data, or just work with what we have. The volumes of the data we need to process and work on are quite huge. You can imagine how many videos with music are uploaded every day to online platforms, how many new songs are being created every day, how many different copyrights there are out there. So again, that poses more complexity to the problem. The other big point in our case is that any errors we make, if we create wrong links, that means that someone doesn't get the money they should. And it also means that someone is getting money, again, when they shouldn't. So any errors that we make through our AI system may end up with legal issues or frictions with our clients and money not being delivered to the creators of the music. Finally, time is very limited. As I mentioned, this service is part of a bigger flow. A lot of those steps need to be run in sequence. So if we take more than the dedicated time that we have, this may end up delaying other parts and maybe missing a cycle of delivery for the company. OK, and finally, some of the steps that we have taken to address those issues and mitigate the risks. So we started with identifying and aligning on the specific area that we want to address with our AI system. So we identified specifically the area where the data is available for us to take as an input, the stakeholder that needs to receive the data from us, in what format, in what time, with what limitations in volumes and batches. And then having that, we documented all of the other business requirements and limitations, like cost restraints, time limitations, error rate, and false positives, sensitivities and thresholds. And then having all of that information, we moved on to develop and deploy the initial baseline system. We kind of went straight with a baseline as soon as we managed to meet the limitations and the requirements to be able to deliver value as soon as possible, to try and gain trust and adoption incrementally. And then we spent a lot of time doing research, creating new solutions, new releases, and deployed those in production as well. And we built trust incrementally, and we gained adoption throughout the company. We made sure that we had open and regular syncs with all the different teams and the stakeholders involved. We encouraged feedback to come from all the ways, which helped us identify areas for new product development and new engineering efforts, and brought us where we are today, where the metadata linking service is one of the most valuable pieces of software or systems in the company and delivers one of the biggest parts of the revenue for the company. And let me just wrap up by just repeating and highlighting some of the points I just mentioned. We, as AI specialists and AI teams, need to focus to deliver AI systems and AI value incrementally to allow for people to gain trust, understand, and work with us into getting to a place where AI is something that operates on its own for the company. Cross-functional teams have helped us a lot to identify issues and easy wins early on in the process. They have helped us as AI specialists and the company to grow horizontally as well and understand all of the different areas that the company works on rather than just the area of our expertise. There needs to be heavy focus on isolating the area where AI is going to be applied. Everyone needs to be aware and have the right expectations from the AI systems. AI systems, as we all know, they're not doing anything that's magical. They're just using data to create new insights and make decisions on their own. We need to invest time in educating people on AI. We need to encourage them to attend conferences, to do workshops for them, sessions, just have discussions with them or share material for them to read. It's really useful for the company. It's useful for us to repeat things so we can also understand them better. And it's also better for the company because the adoption of AI systems in the end is going to be much better. Finally, AI specialists need to have dedicated time without distraction to do research, catch up with the state of the art, and just be more creative. And sorry, this is finally. The idea of human in the loop is quite useful in whenever there are human experts and human specialists. So instead of trying to replace those people, try to gain from their knowledge and fine-tune your model and enhance their work and efficiency day to day. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, George. Are there any questions for George? All right, I think there's one.
Good morning. Thank you for your talk. I have a question regarding the structure of your data science teams. So do you have separate data science teams in your company, or you embed data science within its cross-functional teams? And what are the pros and cons of your current implementation? Thank you.
So I believe I heard the first part. I'm not sure about the second. So the first part is about whether we have a centralized data science team or multiple data science teams. So we have a centralized data science team. Depending on the cycle and the tasks that we have to work on and the project that we need to deliver, we apply people on different areas. Because there is like a distinction on the AI that you can apply if you're working with music or if you're working with metadata and NLP, we have people that are more, they have a bigger specialization in audio things and others that have a bigger specialization in metadata. But this is just for, I don't know, to apply easier solutions and immediate solutions. There's nothing holding people from moving from one project to the other. And the second part, I'm not sure I heard.
The pros and cons of your current solution, your current implementation regarding the structure.
Pros and cons. Pros and cons of having a centralized versus...
OK. So in the past, I worked in a company where we had data scientists in different teams. I believe the main drawback there is that data scientists are not feeling they can communicate as much, because if you have a team of 3 backends and you have 1 data scientist, and the data scientist need to brainstorm or have a bigger discussion on the specific project they are working on, it's hard to have that discussion with just a backend engineer. And if you want to have that discussion with an AI specialist that's focused on a completely different team, then maybe, again, it's too hard to explain to them the specific project you're working on. So we have taken the path of a centralized team intentionally rather than just because it happened.
Any other questions?
OK. I'm going to make, let's say, more technical question, and hope that you can answer it. You talked about the metadata linking service that you have built in-house. I'm just wondering whether this, let's say, model is graph-based. And because you talked about predicting links. So I was talking whether you're talking about predicting edges between nodes, where nodes actually represent, let's say, copyrighted material. That's my question.
OK. So if I understand the question correctly, if not, you can repeat some part of that. So we're addressing that issue mainly just on the metadata. We're not dealing it as if it was a graph. So there are no nodes, there are no actual links. It's just that we are saying that this recording with this kind of metadata and this composition with the related metadata, they refer to the same musical asset. So you have titles and artists and writers, and in some cases, some identifiers. You may have things like lyrics or albums. And with that information, you need to say which recording corresponds to which composition. And it's not a one-on-one connection. So one composition can have as many recordings as it wishes. We did try addressing this project as a graph problem, but the main limitation there is scaling. So you can imagine when you have hundreds of millions of recordings that you need to process on every cycle, and on the other hand, you have tens of millions of compositions, trying to create those links on a graph, it's much, much more costly rather than just addressing it on a metadata level. I hope that answered.
Awesome. Another?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to ask what percentage of your time is dedicated to artificial intelligence on your daily efforts?
I suppose you're not talking about me, you're talking about the team, right?
Well, I'd like to understand how much AI is taking up from data science, so to speak.
I believe it's the whole day. If you take out the overhead, like meetings, calls, or documenting things, and like overhead, the people in the team are focused just on AI and data science. There is a separate part, well, there is another part of the data science team, the MLOps team, that are handling all of the deployment and all of the cloud and the infrastructure. So the data scientists are focused just on experimenting and delivering AI systems and models to the MLOps team to take them to production and the end users.
Awesome. Is there any other question?
Hi. You mentioned about the human in the loop, and I'm curious about how it works in your industry, I mean, in the music industry. In your case, so you're using reinforcement learning or something, to put human and annotating data or, to improve your models. And I mean, I'm just curious how it works in music industry.
Sure. I can start with mentioning how we're doing it for the metadata linking service. So you can imagine we get those huge catalogs of recordings and compositions. We process them with a model. We create the confidence scores. Above a certain threshold, we just say these are correct and we push them. Again, from a threshold and below, we just discard them. And then there is a region where copyright specialists go in. They may even do some more research to get more data to make a decision whether a link is correct or wrong. And then we use that data to retrain the model and make it even better. And we also use their knowledge of how they get data from the web or other sources to enrich the data we also use for the model. The other case we have is the claimers, so people that actually go, let's say, on YouTube, and they listen to music videos and try to identify which song is being played in which segments of the video. So there we have another system that does exactly that. So the system processes videos from YouTube and says that in this segment, so from second 10 to 115, I hear this song from Lady Gaga. And then this is flagged, so the claimant can go in, validate that, and make a claim. Instead of just listening to the whole video, you can imagine there are videos like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. So listening to the whole thing is not optimal. And again, we use the data and the reviews to retrain.
Awesome. And another one?
Hello. So I understand that the AI project lifecycle is a little bit different from, let's say, traditional project lifecycle because they involve exploration, like machine learning model exploration, right? So I'm curious if all of your explorations for like research are business requirement initiated, or do you allocate like a part of a team that, let's say, 10% that is continuously researching and stuff?
So yeah, that's a nice question. I can't remember any time that it was a business requirement for us to do some exploration. Usually there is a request, and then we say, okay, we're not sure about what's the best approach, and then we say we're going to spend a month or a week or whatever amount of time we decide, and it's also fine with the stakeholders, and we spend that time specifically on doing research, documenting the available solutions, trying to find papers that are also accompanied by some code or a repo that we can use as a starting point. And then, yeah, we take iteration. So the metadata linking service started as a baseline with just some rules that we got from the copyright specialists. And then on top of that, we have deployed three new generations of models.
I think that was the last one. Great, George. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.